All right, today we are taking on relationships with intersections and how to draw them. So, two or more geometric figures intersect when they have one or more points in common. The intersection of figures is the set of points the figures have in common. So, we want to sketch each of the following intersections. So first off, we have a line that intersects with another line. So I have my wonderful little toothpicks as my model. So we're just looking at a relationship just like that. So two straight pathways that slice through each other. The place where they intersect, that location is a point. So let me draw that. So here I have a line. I have a second line. And the intersection right here is going to be a point, right? So when two lines cross, the place where they slice through each other, the intersection is a point. Okay, next we have a plane and a line that's in the plane. So here I'm just picturing a plane. So I'm picturing, plane like that. And then I'm just putting a line on top of it like that. So remember that your plane is continuous. It extends in all directions forever, and your line extends in both directions forever. So when I draw it, we typically draw our planes like parallelograms, but we are envisioning that they extend in all directions forever. So it's like picturing arrows just going all the way out in all directions. And then I'm just going to overlay it with a line, double-sided arrow just like that. We know that the line extends in two directions forever. The plane extends in all directions forever. All right, let me slide that up. So a plane and a line that's not in the plane. Okay, well, what could that look like? So I have a plane. So here's a plane. Here's my plane. Let me tilt it like that. And I have a line that's not in the plane. So the only way for me to achieve that would be if I held my line like this. They really have to be parallel if they're never going to make contact or intersect. So I'm looking at my plane like this and my line like this, right? They just have to be parallel so that they never cross. Okay, a way I could visualize that also is with a three-dimensional model. So often I pull out a Kleenex box or I pull out just a right rectangular prism. So here's a smaller model of that. So I can picture, say I picture the top plane like this. The only way for the line to not be in the plane, never make contact with it, would be if I'm picturing down here a line that is parallel. So again, I'm picturing that top layer, right, that top plane, and then here is a line down here, right? They're never going to cross because they are running parallel to each other, right? Parallel pathway to this parallel pathway here. I just have to draw that now. So when I'm drawing it, I'm going to draw my plane on top, like here, a little top layer. So a plane, and then a line that's running parallel. And I just want to be clear, I'm going to write it here, that they have to be on parallel pathways for them to never cross, never make contact. And our shorthand for parallel looks like two hockey sticks just like that. All right, next up, we're looking at a plane and a line that intersects it. So here is my plane. Here's my plane right here. And I need a line that intersects it. So I'm just going to show you my toothpick kind of stabbing through my plane like that. So here is my plane and my line that intersects it just like that. So it just depends on how I'm going to draw it. If I draw it kind of like this, right, then I'm going to start with my parallelogram. Right, that's my plane. I know it extends in all directions forever. Here was that little dot. So let me bring it back to my visual, kind of like that. And I can see the top part of it in the foreground. And then here I'm just going to show kind of what's in the background like that. Kind of dotted, and then it becomes solid again. So I'm just trying to sketch out what it is I'm seeing right here. So here's a plane and a line that intersects it at a point, right? And I've showing you that point was right there, and I kind of just stabbed my way through it just to help you to visualize. All right, next up, two planes that intersect in a line. Okay, So two planes that intersect in a line. So I'm going to take two planes like this. Here are two planes. I've made them two different colors. I'm going to make a cut about halfway right here, halfway across. So just like that, and then I'm going to stop. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two planes and I'm going to slice through just like so, just like that. And what I'm trying to show you are two planes that are intersecting in a line. So when I kind of rotate, tilt it like this, that's easier to see. I can see that line that is being formed. It is right here, right? I'm picturing this line right in there. Let me just tilt so you can see it even more. Okay, so here are two planes that cross just like so. Again, I just have to figure out how to draw that. So sometimes it helps just to give it a little bit of 3D dimension, kind of like that. Just got to figure out how I can draw that. Okay, another way to visualize it, though, would be just to be looking at a right rectangular prism like this, where I can see each side. Here's a plane, here's a plane. This could be that line that is the intersection, for example. Right, I can just draw that in kind of like, or show you, and then I'll draw it in my picture when I put it on paper. Okay, let me just draw the first two that I have described. So if I look at this one again, right, I'm looking at this first model that I showed you here, right? So if I want to draw that, what I usually do is I start by drawing a rectangle. So here's a rectangle, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line just like so, just like that. So that's how I'm starting. I drew a rectangle and I drew a horizontal line that sliced through perfectly just like that, making it half and half. Okay, and then I'm just going to overlay, kind of a parallelogram like this, like that. I'll stop right there because that's the first part of it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom like this. And I'm just giving different colors just to help us to visualize the two separate planes like that. So here, that is just like what I'm showing you right here, right? So I have the two planes that are crossing, and that place where they intersect, right, is a line right there. Okay, the other visual that I showed you was a right rectangular prism. So let's start by drawing that. So I would start with a rectangle like that. Okay, and then on top I'm going to draw in a parallelogram like this. Okay, I'm going to connect to the side, so I'm going to keep this pathway parallel like that, this pathway parallel like that. Okay, and then if I add in some dimension, here would be the background. I'm drawing it dotted like that. So again, that's just representing my model, my right rectangular prism. If we were in the classroom, I would show you a Kleenex box. I use it all the time. So here, if I'm looking at two planes that intersect, it could be any two planes. Let's say that I pick the top one, and I pick the one on the right, like that. Well, where they slice through would be this line right here that I'm marking in black. So in my model, that would be like taking the top plane and this side plane, and then right here would be that straight pathway, that line. I'm just picturing it extending in both directions forever, where they intersect, these two faces. Okay, one other way that I like to draw them is I just picture pages of a book. So if I'm picturing that I'm reading a book, you know, like this, right, I could draw that picture as well. It just depends on how I tilt it. So here would be one example, right? I'm just picturing open pages of a book just like that. Okay, so if I draw that, I draw my open pages, I could just draw a parallelogram like this, like that, and then another one on the other side. Again, I'm just picturing open pages of a book just like that. And then here would be the line where the two planes cross. Okay, so I'm giving you three different ways of visualizing two intersecting planes, and when they intersect, the figure that is formed is a line. Okay, next up, we have two planes that do not intersect. Well, if I have a plane here and I have a plane here, the only way that they're not going to cross, right, if I tilt this, they're definitely going to cross at some point, but if I keep them both level, if I keep them both parallel, right, I'm just tilting both of them, if I keep them parallel, they're never going to cross, right? That's the only way that they would never intersect. So I just have to draw parallel planes. I could also go back to my right rectangular prism and just picturing opposing faces of it. So if this is my right rectangular prism, I could picture my top and bottom. I could picture my left and right sides. I could picture the front and the back. Those would all be planes that are parallel and that will never intersect. So let me draw those two examples. So one way is just to draw two parallel planes. Let me just write that word parallel again. So parallel, little hockey sticks like that. So I could have a plane here and then a plane here, right? They're never going to cross because they are parallel. Or I could picture a right rectangular prism. So here is that front face. That's how I like to start. And then the top, like a parallelogram. Okay, draw in the side. I want this segment to be parallel to the one beneath it. And then I want this segment to be parallel to the one to the right of it. Okay, add in some dimension in the back. Here's those dotted pathways, just like so. And then I can just shade in any opposing faces. So again, it could be these two, left and right. Could be top and bottom. Could be front and back. All of those would work. I'm just going to shade in the left and right hand sides like that. Those would be parallel planes. They're never going to cross. They're never going to intersect. All right, next up. So here I have a ray and I have a line. And I can see that what they share in common is this point A. So I'm just keeping track of that. Since they both have an A, that must be a point where they overlap. So here I'm just going to draw the first figure. I have ray AR. So here I'll just draw a ray. A has to be the endpoint. R would be any other point as it goes in that direction forever. So I've started with that. And then I know that they must share A in common, so I just need to draw in a line, right, because I have the double arrow that passes through A. So I'll go like this. And then I'll put a T right there. So if I look at this, do I have a ray? I have a ray. A is the endpoint, passes through R as it goes through that in that direction forever. And then I can see then that I have a line here where it slices through A and has T on it as well. So this model absolutely works. The point of intersection here is A. Okay, last one for H. Here I see ray CA and line AT. So again, I see, oh, they share A in common. A must be the point where they overlap. So if I start with CA, ray CA, here I have C, here I have A. So endpoint, point it passes through as it goes in that direction forever. Okay, and then I have line AT. So it has to pass through the A right here. So I could draw, for example, a line that slices through just like that, and I'll put my T right there. So this is one option that works. For all of these, there could be multiple pictures that you could draw, but we should be able to recognize that A is the point that they share in common. All right, that's all I have for this lecture. I hope you are feeling more confident with all of these initial geometric figures and trying to picture what happens when they intersect. Have a good rest of your day.